Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It's Full Press NFL Sunday. It's Week 11 in the NFL, and got a lot going on this weekend. It looks like, obviously, 100% we're going to get this Buffalo Bills Cleveland Browns game in, but I'm not going to lie, Braden. I'm a little disappointed that we're not going to get this snow matchup. I understand why. I get it. I certainly, safety first, and if you've seen any of the footage of the mess out there, it makes me certainly glad that I moved to Florida 7 years ago. But obviously, there's no way that they could have done a game, just the amount of snow that came. But I am disappointed we're not going to get that matchup in the snow.
Yeah, I am as well, especially I think when you look at especially how tight the AFC is right now. Cleveland's, physical running game in that snow would have been a fun test for Buffalo. But yeah, definitely safety first, and it just seemed like a bigger headache than I guess it compared to what I guess I anticipated in terms of getting out of Buffalo and just probably the last minute decision making there. But yeah, a lot of intriguing games this week, and can't wait to watch this slate.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there was a point where we weren't even sure if they were even going to make it to Detroit because of how the weather was going. But fortunately, that's going to happen. We're not going to have to deal with any sort of forfeiting or anything like that because, we want these guys to play the game. We don't want to give away victories or forfeits or anything like that. So I don't know what the technicalities that would have been, but I think there's something like that could have came into play. But yeah, no, look, there's a couple really big matchups. Obviously tonight, Sunday Night Football, we have Kansas City and the Chargers. Cleveland and Buffalo is a pretty big matchup, primarily because you're looking at Buffalo and saying, could they lose 3 in a row? I don't think so, but Cleveland's a team that on any given Sunday, they could look like one of the best teams in the league. They're just not doing it at any consistent level. And certainly it's not sustainable how they're doing it. But, maybe they get up for this game against Buffalo. Who knows? So that's very important. Philadelphia looking to go to 9-1 after adding Ndamukong Suh to their already pretty potent defense. And I think that's a pretty strong move. And then, of course, Dallas and Minnesota.
Right.
Pretty big matchup in the NFC East or NFC in general, not the NFC East. But I'm going to ask you real quick about Ndamukong Suh, just because this guy, I believe he's 36 years old. He's coming off a few really solid seasons with the Buccaneers. A guy that I think the Bucs at time miss in the middle of their defensive front. How do you think? What kind of move or what kind of impact do you think this move is going to have on the Eagles? Is it maybe the name is a little bit more the allure here, or is this going to be one of those real savvy moves that's really, at the end of the day, we're going to look back and say, wow, Philadelphia really, really made the right moves bringing in guys like Ndamukong Suh late in the season?
Yeah, I would probably lean more towards the savvy side of it, just because I think just looking at his career, he seems like just one of those few guys on the defensive side of the ball that, as he gets older, the production or just kind of the durability for the most part is not really worn off. So I think just seeing how well he did in Tampa the last couple of years against both the run and the pass, and we know Jordan Davis, the rookie's been banged up. So I think just kind of being able to stick him into any situation is going to be kind of the savvy part that I would lean to there, just because I think he can win kind of in any situation.
Coming off a loss, are you, is this, do you look at the Eagles and say, well, this is going to kill them? Or is it something that's kind of like, okay, good for us. We got the loss behind our backs. We can move on and you're not too worried about the Eagles. How do you look at it?
Yeah, I'm not really too worried about him. I think just it was kind of one of those weird nights where they had, I think, more turnovers or as many turnovers in one game than they had in the entire season. So I think it's just kind of one of those nights where everything was kind of just going against them. And I think you look at a team like the Vikings, who's in that same conference with them, getting so many of, kind of the bounces going their way. I think just the law of averages will kind of will start to stay in Philadelphia's favor. And I just think it was one of those nights where just kind of on the wrong side of those bounces and not really too worried about Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I mean, I didn't look at it, and plus, you add in the fact that it's a divisional matchup against a Washington team who is very quietly played very well the last month and a half. I don't think anyone believes that they're a threat in the division or the NFC, but in a situation like that, it's not surprising that they can pick up a pretty big win coming off a victory over the Packers as well this year. Um, so I do, in the NFC, I do still believe the Eagles are the best team. However, we have another pretty big matchup this Sunday between, and I just mentioned it, Minnesota hosting Dallas. Obviously, Minnesota is what they are. They they have a 7-game winning lead or lost lead over the Packers right now, or 6 games, because I think the Packers have 7 losses and the Vikings obviously only have 1. The Cowboys are coming off a pretty disappointing loss against the Packers. I don't, I looked at that as more of a Cowboys just really kind of, fumbling what they had, and a good opportunity to kind of exercise some demons against the Packers a little bit. But tonight's a pretty big matchup because you're talking about 2 NFC contenders right now facing off. So I'll ask you, which team, the Packers or the Vikings, neither, or sorry, not the Packers, the Cowboys or the Vikings, neither of which have done much over the last 20 to 30 years. So there's not a lot to fall back on for either of these two teams. So I'll ask you, which team do you trust more moving forward? Who do you see more as maybe not a bona fide Super Bowl contender, but certainly a team that could potentially get hot and make a run?
Man, oh, I kind of think that I generally kind of align more with the superior offenses. So I would kind of originally go with Minnesota, but I guess Dallas is kind of just this outlier where come playoff time, I think in those colder games outdoors, I think they just kind of have that physical prowess that maybe Minnesota lacks. So I think with their defense and if their running game is rolling on all cylinders, I actually would probably put more trust in Dallas just because I just think there's maybe a lot more different ways in which they can beat you. And I don't know. I think Minnesota, I think there's something to be said still about Kirk Cousins in big time games. I think he's still, been one of the more impressive players, obviously, this year. But I think until we see still some more kind of consistency in those big moments, I might have to lead Dallas in this situation.
Yeah, and I think I might tend to agree with you because look, Dak he's been okay since he's gotten back from injury, and I think that's to be expected. I mean, you're not going to come back completely, rolling from day one. I mean, it might take a little bit of time. So, if he plays better, then
Mm.
I think this Cowboys team is obviously a far better unit because when push comes to shove, if you're going to ask me who's a better quarterback, I think it's Dak Prescott versus Kirk Cousins, and I'm with you. And this may not be fair to him or whatever, but I need to see it more in prime time. I know they've had some really nice wins this season. They're 8-1, so what am I got to complain about or have to complain about? It's just the uncertainty. And there's uncertainty with both teams. Obviously, the Cowboys haven't won since Clinton was in office, and of course now, the Vikings. Again, I mean, they've been kind of the little brother in the NFC North for years now. Now it's their division. Assuming there isn't some sort of epic collapse, I'm pretty sure they can wrap this thing up here in the next week or so. Um, I like the Cowboys, and I think I agree with you because I do think Dak is ultimately going to start playing a little bit better. He's not, some of those turnovers he's had are just bad decisions, and again, part of it's coming back from injury and everything like that. So Sunday Night Football, Kansas City heading to Los Angeles, and look, Kansas City's going to be shorthanded on offense tonight. Still have Travis Kelsey, which is obviously the most important piece on that offense, but without a couple parts. They're going to head to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers, who are spectacularly mediocre. I don't think they're any threat in the division right now or in the conference, but these two teams tend to split
Right.
pretty much every season. And I when we talked at the beginning of the year, I can't remember if you agreed with me or not, but I thought they were both going to do it on the road. Like each team was going to win on the road. That was obviously wrong because Kansas City won right off the bat, which kind of sent me on a spiral of just making horrible picks all season. But I still think ultimately this is going to split, just because, again, it's a divisional opponent. And I think they're both um, very well matched up against each other whenever they do play. It's just it doesn't really matter where each team is. It's a lot of classic division rivals like that. Uh, what does and I'll ask you from a Kansas City perspective, what is Kansas City going to have to do to win this game?
Yeah, I think they really have to be, I guess, more balanced offensively. We finally saw some running success last week with Isaiah Pacheco, and even with the fumble that kind of got him going. And I know Andy Reid and the coaching staff have kind of still talked that it's still going to be kind of this committee, but I think they really have to trust Pacheco going forward, just because just it seems like he hits the hole obviously way harder, excuse me, than somebody like Edwards-Helaire does. And I just think somebody with that kind of power and that physical running style, I think, can just wear down about any defense. And so I think just trusting enough in that running game and kind of staying balanced, you kind of keep the ball in Mahomes' hands a little bit more. And this is a Chargers secondary that, even when Tyreek Hill was still with Kansas City, they've kind of always had that speed to match the Chiefs. So I think it's just going to be kind of staying balanced and not necessarily going for these quick hitters as much as we've seen. The Titans kind of sat on those a couple of weeks ago. So I kind of expect a little bit more, maybe alteration to the game plan, and maybe just a different approach through the air to compared to what we usually see.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there's probably no better team in the league right now than Kansas City at adjusting and changing to suit what they have. I mean, it's one of the reasons why they're consistently one of the better teams in the last handful of years. Really, since Andy Reid took over, they've consistently been a competitor. Obviously, it's multiplied since Patrick Mahomes has gotten there. But even with Alex Smith, they were able to. I mean, hell, they went an entire season not throwing a touchdown pass to a wide receiver and still had success. Like, how does that happen? Like, I can't believe, and I know there might be even some Chiefs fans out there that don't remember that because they haven't been fans as long. It's a little stab at some people. A lot of Chiefs fans are great, including yourself, Braden. But the point is like, they're able to adapt and change and win in different ways, and I think that's the biggest advantage that they have going here. But at the end of the day, this is a season of really not too many elite teams. I mean, Kansas City's probably as close as you're going to get to an elite team in this season. We've seen in years past there's like 5 teams that are just, I mean, they're just better than everyone else, and in a lot of ways. Doesn't mean they're not flawed, but they're just better. I think this season, of course I think Kansas City's better. I think Philadelphia's better. There's some other teams in the league that the Bills up until the last couple of weeks I would have considered better, but the reality of it is I don't think the difference between Kansas City and Los Angeles is that pronounced, even
Right.
though I put far more faith in the Chiefs. So, tonight I'm gonna, we're not gonna do this pick yet, but if you can probably kind of put it together, I'm probably gonna pick the Chargers to stay true to the split that I feel like was going to happen before the season. I just missed the home and away. So before we get to our picks, though, I do have to ask you real quick about what we did see on Thursday, because what we saw on Thursday was probably the final nail in the coffin for the Packers this season. I thought their season was dead coming into the week. Losing on Thursday again was pretty bad. And look, I do think Aaron Rodgers is injured. I do think part of it is, look, a little bit of age and ability kind of taking a step back. But I also think there is an injury playing a role in his play. But I thought probably his worst game of the season, and he wasn't the only problem. There was a lot of issues with this Packers team. Obviously, I think the playoffs are clearly off the table this season. What do you think the Packers do moving forward this season for the rest of the year and then in the immediate future? Because I mean, at 38, going on 39, this may not just be a bad season and you recover the following year. This may be as good as it's going to get. So you might have to make a couple tough decisions.
Yeah, I guess just for this season, I would like to see. I don't know if they'll do it. I guess I'd like to see them kind of start to do these more vertical passes that we've seen the last couple weeks with Christian Watson, and some of that's just going to take more trust from Aaron and I think believing in those guys. But going forward, yeah, I I don't know. I think the biggest thing they could do is just try to. I think just shore up the trenches is going to be the biggest thing. I know we've kind of talked a little bit about if Aaron's going to be there next year or not. It would not surprise me if they moved on. But I guess I don't know if either Jordan Love's the answer or if they just maybe go out and get a veteran. But I think whether Aaron's there or not, I think it's just shoring up the trenches and really I think they kind of got to get younger in the front seven on defense and a team that's just been so bad as a run defense for the most part since I can remember. I think that's going to be kind of those little things that they're going to have to tweak and work on because those things obviously running the football and just the trench play those things matter so much to not only get to the playoffs but obviously win those playoff games. So whether Rodgers is there or not, I think that's kind of where I would kind of look for transactions and moves going forward.
You said it. They don't really know exactly what they have in Jordan Love, so that kind of begs the question: do you try and see what you have in him this season? Because again, the season isn't. It's over. I mean, look, they're not going to compete for a wild card spot. They're not going to. I believe, except for the Cowboys, I believe they've lost to every playoff team so far in the NFC. So, and from every angle you look at it, there's just very. I mean, they're not mathematically eliminated yet, but the path they're going to have to take is like 1 in a million shot. It feels like at this point. So, do you see what you have in Jordan Love? Because if Aaron Rodgers is injured, I think you probably sit him down. But if he's not that injured, it's a delicate situation because if Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be back next year, you probably don't want to see his tenure as a Packer end by being benched. But at the same time, if you're, a franchise that's like, okay, how do we rebound? How do we get back to being a contender? Well, we got to find out what we got in the guy that we traded up for in the first round. And there's no better way to do that than put him in and see if he can find something with Christian Watson, see if you can find something on offense that you can build off of going into next season. So I guess I'll put you in Brian Gutenhurst's shoes. What do you do? Do you say, you know what? You go to Matt LaFleur and say, hey, you got to sit Aaron Rodgers down, or you talk to Aaron Rodgers and say, look, we want to see what's happening with Jordan Love, see what we can do. Worst case scenario, if Aaron Rodgers just needs to get healthy, we can trade Jordan Love and figure something else out moving forward. But what would you do with Love and Rodgers?
Yeah, I think I would probably see what you have in Love this season just because I think it's mostly because of the youth you got at wide receiver right now. And, I look at a veteran guy like Sammy Watkins. I think that's really the only guy that I maybe wouldn't anticipate being back next year. So I think maybe just to get that chemistry going early. I know, it's just kind of a weird situation seeing how much Love is sit. And, obviously how Rodgers started his career, I think 3 years on the bench. And, I remember him talking about how they drafted two guys in what was going to be, his first real chance. So I think it's a different situation where this team's kind of younger compared to, how older the Packers were back then. So, yeah, I wouldn't really waste any time and maybe see what you got in Jordan Love this season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, the cleanest situation is if Aaron Rodgers is actually injured. Enough to be like, look, this season's going nowhere. this isn't a benching. This is just, look, get healthy. We're going to sit you down for the rest of the year type of thing. But we'll see how that plays out. They have they have a little bit of time to figure it out. So, all right, let's get into our picks, because that's what we do here on 4+ NFL Sunday, and we're approaching 11 a.m. East Coast time. So let's get started. First, we're going to jump right into it. Detroit at the Giants. The Giants coming off the bye week, and again, still one of the less talked about teams, contenders. Still aren't entirely sold on the Giants yet, but I am sold on them beating Detroit this year, or this week, even though Detroit's coming off a nice little 2-game winning streak. I like the way the Giants are playing. I think they're a scrappy, pretty talented team who tends to shut down teams like Detroit, bad teams like Detroit. So give me the Giants.
I got the Giants as well. And yeah, I think you mentioned kind of the matchup. I think Wink Martindale, kind of blitz heavy defense, just not a good matchup for somebody like Jared Goff, who obviously can get really happy feet in the pocket. So I'll go with the Giants.
Next, we have actually a very big. I'm surprised we didn't spend too much time on this before we got to our picks, but a very big matchup in the AFC and the AFC East specifically. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Jets at the Patriots. The Jets, if they win, even for just a very brief moment, will have sole possession of first place in the AFC East. If New England wins, they will further muddy the waters in that what's turning out to be a very competitive and now very open division, with Buffalo now losing 2 in a row. So I can't not. First of all, it's against everything in me to pick the Jets to win anything. So of course I'm going to take the Patriots in this one.
Yeah, I went with the Jets in the first matchup between these two teams, and I just think the defense of New England has really started to stand out to me, and I just think until maybe we see more consistency from Zach Wilson, kind of like I guess a younger Kirk Cousins, we got to see it kind of start to build up here a little bit more, and I just think that's going to be the difference in today's game, New England's D. So I'll go with the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Judon is not being talked about enough
Right.
in terms of defensive player of the year, or just one of the better defenders in the league, because he is just a force just about every single snap, not just the ones where he picks up sacks, and there's a lot of snaps where he does that. So next we have the Rams at the Saints. I look, the Rams are an absolute mess right now. I know Matt Stafford's going to be back this week, but it's not going to really matter. New Orleans isn't that much better. I think they are better, so I'll give them the edge at home. Give me the Saints.
I went with the Saints as well. I think it's just kind of one of those things, maybe with picks, that I guess until we see it start to turn around from the Rams, I can't really pick them. So I had to go with New Orleans there.
Next, we have Philadelphia at Indianapolis. Last week was fun for Jeff Saturday. This week, I don't think so. I think Philadelphia rebounds after their loss and takes care of business against just an inferior team. I think the Colts will put up a fight, but at the end of the day, the Eagles are the Eagles, and they're going to win this one.
Not a whole lot to add there. Yeah, I think especially coming off a loss, it's a tough week for Indy to really rely on maybe Matt Ryan. He's probably going to have to throw the ball a lot in this game, you would think. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here.
All right. We're getting to that Cleveland at Buffalo in Detroit game. It's been a mess. And like I talked earlier, that Cleveland is a team that on any given Sunday certainly can screw up some plans of some other teams. And when Deshaun Watson comes back in a few weeks, maybe we'll reevaluate who Cleveland is. But right now, I don't, even with all the distractions, even with the 2-game losing streak, I think Buffalo is going to be able to get things right against Cleveland. I just can't see them losing 3 games in a row. Doesn't mean they're going to fix everything, but it's Cleveland. And I got a feeling that Buffalo is going to be able to get back. I believe they're getting Jordan Poyer back tonight as well, or today as well. So that should be a nice boost for that defense. So give me the Bills at home on the road in Detroit.
Yeah, there's really only just so much that Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt can provide you, and I think that's just not an area where Buffalo usually gets beat. So it could actually be a good thing, maybe getting away from Buffalo, and even with some of the distractions, kind of getting into this environment where both teams are going to maybe be on their heels a little bit early. could definitely favor the Bills. So I think Buffalo bounces back today.
All right, next we have Chicago at Atlanta. The Bears offense has been the talk of the town lately, even though they fell short last week. I like them on the road against Atlanta. I mean, neither of these teams are that good. I think the Bears obviously have a lot more going for them with Justin Fields and certainly the potential there. But I like Chicago on the road here. So give me the Bears.
I got the Bears as well. I don't know if I can really trust Atlanta's offense right now, given what maybe we've seen a little bit of a step back the last couple weeks. So if Justin Fields continues to play like he has been, I think Chicago will win today.
All right, Carolina at Baltimore. I got Baltimore. Carolina's just a dumpster fire. So give me Baltimore every day and twice on Sunday.
Yeah,
Twice.
I think it's tough to see Baker Mayfield come back in, I guess, for the Panthers after they've been a little more competitive with PJ Walker. Maybe he actually does well in a matchup like this, seeing the Ravens as much as he has, but don't really have a lot of high expectations. I got the Ravens.
Washington at Houston. We talked about the Commanders earlier. Quietly 4-1 in their last 5 games. I think they moved to 6-1 or 5-1 in their last 6 games with a pretty standard victory over the Houston Texans, who I don't think are a very good team. But I think Washington, again, with Heineke, again, he's not the best quarterback in the world, but he does bring a little bit of stability to that offense. And I think that was the most important thing. So give me the Commanders.
I got the Commanders as well. Not really a whole lot to add. I guess Davis Mills. We'll see if this is kind of his last stretch in Houston, who currently sits, holding the #1 pick for next year. So that's kind of where I think a lot of Texans fans' minds are at. I got the Commanders today.
Vegas heads to Denver in a matchup of really the all disappointment teams. I like the Raiders. I as bad as they've been at times, and as as dysfunctional as it seems, Denver's just a bad team offensively, and no matter how good they are defensively, they're not going to win too many games. So give me the Raiders.
I went with Denver. I know they've kind of struggled more the last couple of years against the Raiders, but I guess maybe just relying on that defense to come through today, and I guess maybe with that Raiders secondary, I could see the Broncos having a little bit more success through the air. Not a high bar to really clear there, but I went with Denver in a close one here.
Next, we talked about this game earlier. Dallas at Minnesota. Ultimately I'm going to go with Minnesota. I know we talked about maybe trusting Dallas a little bit more down the road, but Minnesota's playing some good football. I like what they're doing offensively, and assuming Justin Jefferson is playing, I know he popped up on the injury report. He's probably the best player offensively for both teams on the field. So I like Minnesota at home in this one to move to 9-1.
I like Minnesota as well, and yeah, I think it's just this is a Minnesota defense that's really impressed me most of the season, and they're getting a lot of takeaways right now. Patrick Peterson's kind of had a resurgent season and a bounce back year, so I think they're going to give Dak Prescott some fits, and I think Vikings will win it out today.
All right, next we have Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. The Bengals have been playing much better since their pretty rough start to the season. I know Jamar Chase has been banged up. They're saying he could be back next week. I don't think it's really going to matter against Pittsburgh, even though I like Pittsburgh more with TJ Watt in their lineup. I like the Bengals here on the road against Steelers.
Yeah, this is definitely a weird one. I think being in Pittsburgh, it's always, kind of nervous feelings for the Bengals. And I don't know if you've seen their schedule. I think toughest finish to the year. They have the Titans and Chiefs the next 2 weeks after this, and then their last 4 is Tampa Bay, New England, Buffalo, and Baltimore. So this is really a game where the Bengals have to get the win to kind of stay afloat in the AFC, playoff hunt. So I think they'll be aware of that today and get things done.
All right, Sunday Night Football, Kansas City at the Chargers. We talked about this game. As I alluded to, I'm going to go with the Chargers. Again, I do believe that these teams are always going to usually split just because I as much as I think Kansas City's better, I just, at times they're just going to get had for whatever reason. I think they're shorthanded, so that obviously adds to it. And the Chargers, again, I mean, they're capable. They
Right.
haven't done it so much this season, but they're capable of playing some really good football. I think you're going to get that here tonight. I don't think it's going to mean any sort of run is imminent, but I think in terms of divisional rivalries, I think they're going to get the upper hand this week.
I went with Kansas City more so. I think I think I've been really surprised to see how much Justin Herbert is struggling right now, and you talk about just the turnovers in the fourth quarter kind of keep popping up for him, and even with the injuries, we got to see more consistency from Kansas City. So with how they've been up and down, it'll be interesting to see coming off a win that they had against Jacksonville, but. I just think the offense with the Chiefs, even with those injuries, is kind of on another level right now than the Chargers. So that was kind of the biggest difference for me, and I'm going to go with Kansas City.
Yeah, look, I'm right there with you with Justin Herbert. He is plateaued, kind of hit a rut, whatever. I mean, the expectation for him this season was certainly elevated, and he has not reached that. I mean, a lot of factors, but yeah, I'm right there with you. So trust me, my confidence level in that pick is not high, and I'll probably regret it as soon as the game starts and I realize, well, this isn't going to be competitive. So, all right, guys and girls, and anyone who's watching, thank you very much for tuning in to another Full Press NFL Sunday. We got a Full Press Fantasy Live show with Kyle Senor coming up here at about 11:30. So stay tuned. Go get a snack. Go get a drink. Well, I guess if you want to start drinking this early, go for it. It is Sunday. You're probably going to be sitting on the couch all day, so be safe. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will be back. I don't know. Maybe we'll have a show Thanksgiving morning. We'll find out. We'll figure it out. Stay tuned. We'll let you know. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.